Welcome to the Land Your Best Show. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, bringing you Thanksgiving picks here for the NFL to open Week 13. We've got 3 games on the slate. We're also going to have a Black Friday video up for you later in the week, and then, of course, the NFL Sunday picks. So very busy calendar, as always, at this time of year. Feeling pretty good after a nice Week 12. We got to look at some sides and totals here, as well as several player props to get your money down on. So let's get right into it with the first game at 12:30, Green Bay at Detroit, the oldest rivalry on Thanksgiving. Green Bay opened at a flat 3 and people were grabbing that. So now it's plus 2.5. And for me, if that's teaser territory, I think you want to get Green Bay up to 8.5. Both these teams have shown to be untrustworthy in recent weeks, but in particular, there's no way I want to back the Lions and Jared Goff against a team that can generate pressure without blitzing, because we saw, teams that blitzed and generate pressure in terms of the Vikings just completely annihilate Jared Goff. And then the Giants, who do not have the same amount of talent as the Packers last week, made Goff look bad. This Lions offensive line is just injured. Mahogany's not going to be back. Glasgow and Decker are both questionable here on the short week. And so it's an even worse situation than in week 1 when Goff visited Lambeau and got really pushed off his spot and struggled, put up some garbage time stats, but it was no contest there, right? Packers could get some good guys back in terms of Jaden Reed potentially returning. I'm not sure if he'll be ready on the short week, but Matthew Golden also could be back. And Quay Walker defensively going to be huge, but I'll talk about that in a minute. It's just a situation where Jordan Love has also given this Detroit defense trouble. We just saw them get punked by Jameis Winston. They've now allowed the 4th most yards per attempt in their last 3 games, and the injury report is lengthy for the Detroit Lions. It is almost every defensive player is at least limited in practice right now. They also play a high rate of man coverage, and Jordan Love shreds that, but that's something we'll get to later. Jahmyr Gibbs was one of the big winners here in Week 12 that we had in the show in terms of taking the rushing and receiving and the Lions to win, which, was lucky to get in the back door there in terms of the win. But we're going to turn right around and actually fade Jahmyr Gibbs on Thanksgiving. 106.5. It's pretty much the same line as against the Giants, but it could not be a more different matchup. The Green Bay Packers have an insanely good front 7, especially when they get Quay Walker back in there. He missed Week 12 with a stinger, so he should absolutely just be right back. He's been back at practice, so they are more banged up in the secondary are the Packers. You got a couple of starting corners who might be out, so maybe the Lions are able to get something going down the field. But that passing attack has not looked good, and Goff was forced to just dump it down a lot to Gibbs. He obviously had a huge game against the Giants and was the focal point of the offense, and now he's the focal point of the Packers' game plan. And we've seen teams shut down the Gibbs and basically the Lions offense. He's basically an extension of what they're doing. But if you look just the last 4 weeks, his rushing lines, 25 yards against Minnesota, 142 against Washington, 39 against the Eagles, and then, of course, 219 last week. So there's commonality there that Washington and the Giants are 2 of the worst defenses in the league, and Eagles and the Packers are 2 of the best. Vikings not even, but that's a game plan that can be replicated. But Vikings also a division opponent, and the familiarity sometimes leads to them knowing how they want to unlock Gibbs. Being able to hone in on that. His last 3 against Green Bay, he's only averaged 42 rushing yards a game at 3.6 yards per carry, not breaking off those explosives, and that's really bearing the lead here. The Packers are number 1 limiting explosive plays, both on the ground and through the air. They're just insanely well coached. They're insanely talented in the front 7. And Gibbs should be the focal point of what they're trying to do. So maybe he catches a bunch of short balls, but I don't think they're going to let him get loose there. So I talked about the Lions playing a lot of man defense. 35% is the second highest rate in the NFL this season. And that's led to QBs being able to scramble. And if you remember in the preseason, Love actually was expressly saying he wants to scramble more this year, use his legs. Last year he was dealing with 3 different injuries and never really did. So his scramble rate is up from 2.6% last year to 4.7% this year. That doesn't always translate to a lot of yardage. In the first matchup with the Lions, he only had 4 yards on 3 carries, but this will be a different situation in terms of the Packers. Will they have Josh Jacobs? We're going to apparently go right down to the wire with that again. Will they have those receivers? We don't know. Will the Lions have certain cornerbacks? We don't know. But what we do know is that they're probably going to play a lot of man defense, and they're probably going to pressure Love and flush him out of the pocket. And he's kind of a sneaky athlete. When he gets out there, he can run for sure. But it's just the way the Lions have played defense that makes this such an exploitable number. They've allowed 7 rush attempts per game in their last 4 to quarterbacks. So each quarterback has gotten 12 plus yards on the ground to face them. In fact, 8 of the last 9 to face the Lions have gotten at least 12 rushing yards. The exception being Baker Mayfield, which is just kind of a weird aside that he didn't scramble for like 5 straight weeks and then all of a sudden takes a hit and he's out indefinitely with a shoulder injury. So there was probably something going on with him in any case that didn't make him want to run. But Love's been healthy this year. He's been a different guy than last year in terms of using his legs. And that makes me think he might be rushing here on Thanksgiving. Game 2, this is going to have all the eyeballs on it, right? I mean, 2 high-profile teams looking to get in the playoffs. And Dallas at +3.5 now. The Chiefs have gotten some action, and I just don't want to back the Chiefs, man. That was just so shaky in the last couple weeks. I mean, they just get everybody's best shot. The total is up to 52.5 here. So I mean, maybe the under is a play if you want action on the side or total. I just like looking at a high total and thinking about the props that we can attack in this game. And mainly in terms of attacking that Dallas defense, which is improved, but it's still not any great shakes, especially at the back end. So we're going to monitor some injuries in terms of will Rashee Rice play. That's going to be huge, but I still love Travis Kelce here, especially because Noah Gray's not going to play. He's in concussion protocol, and we only have a couple days here to clear him. So it's going to be a full-time role for Kelce, who played a season-high 84 snaps in Week 12. Part of that, Noah Gray going down. Gray was involved early. Colts did a pretty good job of trying to take Kelce away, and I'm glad I steered away from him last week after hitting him the week prior, and now I think we're going to go right back to the well in terms of the season's still on the line for the Chiefs. Who is Mahomes going to when it's not cutting time? It's Kelce, of course. But I mean, he tried to go to him against the Colts, and they just kind of had this miscommunication that was pretty uncharacteristic for the two guys who have an incredibly good rapport together. But in this matchup, it should just be much easier to get going, right? I mean, Dallas plays that soft zone. They have terrible personnel at the safety position. They have injured safeties. And their run defense has improved. So opponents have actually logged 77% of their yards through the air against Dallas in their last 3. So that's the second highest in the league. So they become a bit of a pass funnel all of a sudden. Kelce, for what it's worth, this is his first Thanksgiving appearance, but for what it's worth, in 3 Christmas games, 96 yards per game. Guy who does come to play on the big stage, of course. He hit a milestone last year. And another narrative to consider. Dallas interviewed him, decided not to draft him in round 2 way back in the day. He went in round 3, and in 2 career matchups, he has averaged 73.5 on 6 catches against Dallas. I mean, those came 4 and 7 years ago at this point. But, I don't know if he still harbors some resentment against them. In any case, it's in Jerry World, first Chiefs appearance down there, I think. And they're gonna be putting on a show. So interesting one here is the backfield discussion. Isaiah Pacheco is coming back from his MCL sprain, but how much of a full go will he be? So, I mean, Kareem Hunt down to 34 yards, I believe, in most spots. I think that's a beatable number. I mean, 36 in others. I think he's probably still going to get a baseline of like 12 carries for 40 yards, just because the Chiefs don't have much else going with their offense. Like, it's a lot. The passing game is a struggle, man. Mahomes is not getting it going downfield. He's not getting the protection he needs. Dallas has been generating pressure. Like I said, they've been good in run defense, but that just means, you're going to keep using Hunt to stay ahead of the sticks and to convert on these short yardage plays. I mean, he's nearly unstoppable on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and at the goal line. So you get actually plus money on the anytime touchdown for Hunt. And that's just been so consistent with Pacheco out. I don't think that's really going to change that much in terms of his goal line role with Pacheco in. Like, why would the Chiefs go away from Kareem Hunt, who's been their most reliable red zone weapon? Goal line weapon for sure. He's just been the most reliable part of their offense in terms of the short yardage. And he just literally saved their season carrying the ball 30 times to beat the Colts. So, I mean, maybe we see a downtick to a degree, but I still think he's going to have a slight lead in the backfield usage. You look at last year when Pacheco came back from his broken leg, In his first game back, he played 37% of the snaps. Hunt played 38%. Samaje Perine was in there for a quarter of the snaps. I mean, the rookie Rashard Smith is probably going to take on that passing role, but as far as Hunt's role, it's pretty reliable. And let's just look a little deeper at the Dallas run defense, which has looked good in 2 games, but they were 2 games against Philly and Las Vegas, just absolutely pathetic run offenses right now. They're still 29th in run defense by DVOA, accounting for that. And Quinnen Williams injured his ribs, and he's expected to play, but he's a game time decision, and that's been a key addition as far as juking that run defense. And look at prior to the bye week when they didn't have Quinnen Williams, they gave up 79 yards to Amari DiMercato and the Cardinals, who just don't even try to run the ball at this point. And a similar comp to Kareem Hunt, J.K. Dobbins, 15 for 111. Just kind of steady veteran runner up the middle, powerful back. That's what we got in Kareem Hunt. Last game of the night is the Bengals at the Ravens, and Joe Burrow is going to be back for this one, but it's only moved the line a little bit from plus 7.5 to 7. Now that we know Burrow's in there, if you got the look ahead at 7.5, kudos. I mean, because T. Higgins isn't going to play, I think is why this isn't really moving much. But you got to look on the other side. Kyle Hamilton is probably not going to play, and that to me is probably more important in the grand scheme of things. He's the best defensive player for the Ravens and does so many different things. He's once again been the skeleton key to unlock their defense halfway through the year as Zach Orr figured something out last year, and then they suddenly progressed to becoming a great defense after being one of the worst. We're seeing the same trend here. Their defense has been very good. We don't know how good Joe Burrow is going to be in his return, but I mean, Jamar Chase is going to be back in there. He is going to terrify the Ravens defense, and he's going to have a little extra rest here. And that Bengals defense looked pretty good against the Patriots, at least in spurts. They looked better than the worst defense in the league. I'll say that. They weren't a 32nd ranked defense. They showed some life. This is a division game, big division dog. Dogs have over a touchdown in a division game. Usually like them. Usually you'd be scared off by Lamar Jackson, though, just absolutely obliterating this team. But he is dealing with now 3 different injuries. That the latest being a toe injury. He is averaging just 2.8 yards per carry since coming back. Completely ineffective as a runner. I believe he has the worst accuracy rating on first reads since returning too. So the passing game not getting going either. This Ravens offense is not the juggernaut it's been. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals cover. This is probably, as far as like a spread pick, most intriguing, along with Dallas as the other dog here on Thanksgiving. But I really like this prop here in terms of Gesicki receiving, receptions, and receiving yards either way. I mean, he's implied minus 136 to catch 4. And the prop is only 34, 35 yards. He's not really just like an underneath guy. Like he gets going downfield, especially when you have Joe Burrow back in there and not Joe Flacco. I mean, Burrow will get him in stride, get him down the seam, and Gesicki can make plays, man. He's definitely more of a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end. And part of the cap here, I mean, T. Higgins out. The Ravens are going to be like, okay, we have to double Jamar Chase. Like, who would not? Especially when the last time these teams played, Jamar Chase went for 264 and 3 touchdowns in an insane shootout. So, yes, they're very well aware of Chase and what they have to do. T. Higgins missed that game. Gesicki only 4 for 30, but he drew 9 targets. And you see the elevated usage without T. Higgins last year. The other 4 games, he flew over these props, and he wound up averaging 5 for 62 in 5 games without T. Higgins. Immediately slotted into a bigger role than Noah Fant by far, doubling him in routes, playing 44% of the snaps. And that was his first game back since week 6 after a long layoff. So now you got to anticipate it's only an uptick in usage and playing time for Gesicki, who they really need now in the spot with T. Higgins out with a concussion. For the Ravens, I actually will look at Keaton Mitchell, and it's only 19.5 yards, but longest rush at 10 yards is a way to get that because we don't expect him to get that many touches, maybe 4 or 5 carries in terms of normal projection. Things could always go a different way here. We don't know how John Harbaugh wants to approach this one, but I would think with Lamar struggling the way I mentioned it, especially struggling as a rusher to get those explosive edge plays. Justice Hill also has not been it in terms of breaking off explosive runs. So I would expect them to use a little more Keaton Mitchell, a change up to Derrick Henry, who's going to soften up the middle, who's going to get plenty of carries, but I mean, he's at like 90 yards plus in terms of his prop. And Mitchell's just at a much more exploitable number to mix in there and probably break some big plays against a run defense that is still very, very bad. I mean, second most yards per play, most yards per game overall for the Bengals, and they're 29th in rush yards, but even more than that lately. For what it's worth, on a short week last year when the Ravens played on Christmas, Derrick Henry did go off against Houston. Keaton Mitchell mixed in 11 times, 11 carries for just 20 yards, but that was at Houston. That's an elite defense. Bengals, anything but elite defense. Like I said, they're still bottom half, even though they looked okay. And I mean, this is just what Keaton Mitchell does. Like he actually set the NFL record in yards per carry. It's 6.6 yards per carry on a minimum of 75 attempts. He has long runs of 9, 10, and 22 in the 3 games leading up to a bit of a dud against the Jets. Just 2 carries, 10 yards, right? I mean, the Ravens sleptwalked through that entire game. They did not give their best game plan, their best effort, but his snaps actually doubled from averaging 7 a game to 14 in these last 2, including that Jets game. So, I mean, he's getting more and more involved as he comes off his own injury, and I just think he's going to be used well here to gain the edge against the Bengals, make some stuff happen. So that's all the time we have here for you in the Thanksgiving breakdown. You can find all this content at landyourbets.com, as well as analytical projections and everything else you need to get ready for week 13 and NBA action as we go along as well. But until we see you next, happy betting.